The stars above were a tapestry of glittering lights as the Earth's atmosphere buzzed with a strange new energy. In the midst of this cosmic quiet, the first signs of the alien invasion were not violent or terrifying but utterly, inexplicably, amusing. A fleet of sleek, otherworldly ships appeared just outside Earth's orbit, their designs so bizarre that even the most advanced telescopes couldn't make sense of their geometry. They weren't imposing battleships, but rather peculiar, fluttering shapes, some resembling large mechanical butterflies, others appearing to shift and warp like living amoebas. Lydia, an ambitious biologist at the International Space Research Institute, stood at the forefront of humanity's response. She had always dreamed of first contact, though her idealized fantasies never involved interplanetary humor. When Earth's leaders announced the presence of the alien fleet, her excitement was tempered by a nagging feeling that this wasn't the encounter she had imagined. She wasn't worried about an invasion, not at first. What concerned her was the inexplicable nature of these aliens. "They're laughing at us," Lydia muttered to herself as she stared at the live footage streaming from Earth's observatories. The aliens had been transmitting strange signals to Earth's satellites, synchronized, almost choreographed bursts of sound that sounded eerily like laughter. The voice was soft, melodic, but undeniably mocking. The laughter wasn't angry or threatening, it was almost playful. A faint, nervous chuckle from the back of the room cut through her thoughts. Her colleague, Jeremy, raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure it's mocking, or are you just reading too much into it?" He had a point, after all, how could they possibly know what these alien beings were thinking? But Lydia knew something was off. They had watched the signals for hours, and no matter how they analyzed the data, it was clear the aliens were not taking humanity seriously. The lights flickered, and the sharp buzz of Lydia's communicator crackled to life. "Lydia, we need you in the briefing room. Now." It was the voice of General Rayner, the no-nonsense commander of Earth's defense forces. He didn't repeat himself. She rushed to the meeting room, arriving just as the heavy metal door slid open with a hiss. The room was filled with military personnel and high-ranking scientists, all staring at the holoscreen that projected an image of the alien ship fleet, now drifting closer to Earth. Lydia's eyes scanned the map projected on the large screen. The ships were not in a formation designed for war, they were scattered and seemed to be moving without purpose. The movement patterns were erratic, like an alien game of tag. "These aliens," General Rayner began, his voice low, "have made it clear they are not hostile. But their behavior," he paused, clearly perplexed. "It's baffling. They've communicated with us, but their signals are nothing like we've ever heard before. It's laughter that only grows more intense as time goes on." Lydia looked around the room, seeing the same concern reflected in the faces of the other scientists. How could they take these aliens seriously when they seemed to be more entertained by humanity than threatened by them? "We've tried every possible form of communication," General Rayner continued. "And yet, they keep laughing." "Maybe they don't understand our language," suggested Dr. Carla Zhang, a linguist who had been working on deciphering the alien signals. "It could be a cultural misunderstanding." But Lydia didn't believe that for a second. She had spent years studying extraterrestrial biology and thought processes. What she had learned was that alien species, especially ones with such advanced technology, rarely misunderstood anything. No, these aliens knew exactly what they were doing. And what worried her most was that they weren't just laughing at Earth, they were laughing at humanity. "I think we're a joke to them," Lydia said quietly, but her words held a weight that silenced the room. The general narrowed his eyes. "What do you mean?" "These aliens have advanced technology that defies anything we can even imagine," Lydia explained, stepping forward to point at the screen. "They could obliterate us in an instant if they wanted to. But instead, they're laughing. They're mocking us, not with threats, but with humor. They are viewing humanity like a spectacle." The silence in the room was palpable. Everyone knew Lydia was right. These aliens could have invaded with overwhelming force at any moment. They had the power to enslave, destroy, or simply erase humanity. But instead, they had chosen to laugh. And that wasn't just insulting, it was demeaning. It suggested that humanity was so inconsequential to them that it was only worthy of mockery. It was the ultimate insult. The conversation took an unexpected turn when Dr. Zhang, still staring at the holoscreen, spoke again, her voice trembling slightly. I think I may have figured it out. Their laughter, it's not just mockery. It's a challenge. Lydia's mind raced. A challenge? What do you mean? They've been observing us, but they aren't just laughing at us. They're waiting for us to respond. Maybe they want to see if we can stand up to them. Maybe they think we're too primitive to even understand what's happening. The implications of Dr. Zhang's words hung heavy in the air. Was it possible that these aliens weren't just trying to amuse themselves? Could they actually be testing humanity? The thought was both absurd and terrifying. Jeremy, ever the skeptic, folded his arms. A test? You think they're treating us like some kind of game? I think they're treating us like an experiment, Lydia replied. And if we fail their test by responding in the wrong way, it's over. The general leaned forward. So, what do we do now? Sit around and wait for them to finish laughing? Lydia's eyes sharpened. No. We respond. But we don't respond the way they expect. If they want to laugh at us, we give them something to laugh about. The room fell silent as everyone processed her words. Are you suggesting we fight fire with fire? General Rayner asked, his voice a mix of skepticism and curiosity. Lydia nodded. Exactly. But not with weapons. We use our wit. Humor. Intelligence. We show them that we're not some primitive species that they can laugh at. If they want to mock us, we'll give them something to really laugh at. And in doing so, we might just win their respect. The idea was risky, but as Lydia scanned the faces of the people around her, she saw the flicker of hope in their eyes. The stakes had never been higher, and humanity's response would determine whether they lived or died. And with that, the plan to respond to the alien invasion was set into motion. But what Lydia didn't realize was that this response would require far more than wit or cleverness. It would take an extraordinary level of creativity, courage, and perhaps a touch of madness. As the clock ticked down, and the alien ships continued to approach Earth's orbit, Lydia couldn't help but wonder, would humanity rise to the challenge, or would they remain the butt of the aliens' cosmic joke? Little did she know, the answer was already unfolding, and it would be one that no one, not even the aliens, could have predicted. The first real test of humanity's response came when the alien ships entered Earth's atmosphere. It was a spectacular sight, the strange, shifting forms of the ships now visible to the naked eye, casting shadows across the planet like eerie, floating giants. The ships moved in intricate patterns, almost as if they were deliberately making their presence felt, their shimmering surfaces reflecting the pale light of the sun. As they hovered above Earth, the laughter resumed, a sound that vibrated in the very air itself, echoing across every continent. Lydia stood in the command center, her heart pounding as she watched the live feed. The alien fleet was now circling the globe, their movements erratic and playful. It was clear that the aliens were not here to attack, yet the tension in the air was undeniable. What had been a faint, curious question in the back of her mind now solidified into a desperate urgency. How could humanity fight back against something so unpredictable? We're running out of time, General Rayner said, breaking into her thoughts. He gestured to the massive holographic display, which was now showing the alien ships hovering above the oceans, their laughter reverberating in the background. They've been hovering for hours. We can't wait any longer to respond. Lydia's mind raced. This wasn't just about making a statement, it was about survival. If the aliens were indeed challenging humanity, as Dr. Zhang suggested, then they would need to answer with something equally unexpected. The problem was, humanity didn't have the luxury of waiting for the perfect plan to unfold. We need to be bold, Lydia said, her voice steady despite the growing tension. They're not looking for a military response, and they're definitely not going to take us seriously if we act like we're afraid. We need to show them we're not just some primitive species. But how do we do that? Asked Dr. Zhang, her voice laced with doubt. We don't even know what they want. Lydia thought for a moment, scanning the data they had collected so far. The laughter. The playful way the ships circled. The signals they were sending. It all pointed to something strange, something beyond the conventional. These aliens didn't understand humanity as a threat. They saw humanity as a puzzle. A joke. A mystery to be unraveled. "We're going to give them a response they never expected," Lydia said, her voice hardening with resolve. "Not a weapon. Not a show of power. We're going to give them a show. A performance." General Rayner raised an eyebrow. "A performance?" "Yes," Lydia replied, her mind already racing with possibilities. "We'll put on a show so ridiculous, so bizarre, that they'll be so caught off guard they won't know how to react." There was a beat of silence before the general spoke again. "You're talking about humor, aren't you?" "Exactly," Lydia said, a smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. "We give them something they weren't expecting. Something that throws their assumptions about us out the window. And if we do it right, they'll stop laughing at us and start taking us seriously." Jeremy, who had been quiet until now, looked up with a mixture of disbelief and excitement. "You're suggesting we use comedy as a defense strategy?" Lydia nodded. "Humans have been using humor to break the ice, diffuse tension, and unite people for centuries. Why not use it to show these aliens that we're more than just a spectacle for their amusement? We need to show them we can think outside the box." The idea was unconventional, even absurd, but as Lydia looked around the room, she saw a flicker of understanding in their eyes. They might not have all the answers, but they understood one thing: they couldn't afford to just sit back and wait to be defeated. The time for waiting was over. The first step in their plan was simple: they needed to send a message, loud and clear, that humanity was ready to play this game on their terms. Lydia and her team quickly put together an emergency broadcast, a message that would be transmitted across the globe, and perhaps even into the vast reaches of space. "We're going to show them the best of what we've got," Lydia said, feeling the weight of her words. "We'll start with the simplest form of communication, humor. We'll turn their laughter into ours. A performance of sorts, where we get the last laugh." In the control room, the team quickly began to gather footage, clips from Earth's most bizarre, outlandish comedic moments, from slapstick routines, to absurd sketches, to clips of humanity's most ridiculous moments on television. It was a collection that ranged from the golden age of silent film to modern viral internet humor. But what was even more important was the underlying message: humanity had a sense of humor, and it wasn't afraid to use it. Lydia knew that the plan would be a gamble. She didn't know if it would succeed or if the aliens would respond with something more dangerous. But what she did know was that the aliens had underestimated humanity's capacity for creativity. And if humor was the weapon they had left, they were going to use it to the fullest. As the footage began to air, a strange thing happened. The aliens, still hovering above Earth, seemed to take notice. The laughter from their ships grew louder, as if they had understood the message and were now fully engaged. Was it mockery, or was it something else? Lydia wasn't sure, but she didn't have time to dwell on that. Instead, she turned to the next phase of the plan. As the broadcast continued, Earth's best comedians, scientists, and performers from around the world began to speak directly into the cameras, offering up their own unique interpretations of humor. Some tried their hand at slapstick, others at satire, and a few even improvised completely off-the-cuff material designed to throw the aliens off balance. Lydia watched as the messages of humor piled up, each one more ridiculous than the last. The laughter from the alien fleet grew louder still, and Lydia could only hope that it wasn't a precursor to something more menacing. But there was no going back now. "Do you think it's working?" Jeremy asked as he watched the alien ships shift position on the screen. "I think they're laughing at us," Lydia said, her voice low. "But the question is, are they laughing with us now?" The hours passed, and the world held its breath. The broadcast continued, and the laughter of the aliens persisted. But something had shifted. The once mocking tone seemed less pointed, less cruel. Could it be that they were beginning to understand the humans weren't just the punchline to a joke, but participants in the comedy? Lydia didn't have the answer yet, but as she watched the alien ships swirl above Earth, she felt a small spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could win this battle with the most unlikely of weapons, laughter. As the aliens continued to watch and laugh, the game was on. And humanity's response had only just begun. Hours passed, and Earth held its collective breath. The laughter from the alien fleet had not stopped, but it had shifted in tone. What had once been mocking had softened, its rhythm becoming less derisive and more curious. Lydia paced the command center, watching the live feed as the alien ships continued their orbit around Earth. The laughter echoed through the air, now interspersed with strange, musical undertones. Was it the aliens mimicking human laughter, or had they finally begun to engage with the comedy humanity had offered? Are they just enjoying the show, or are they preparing something? General Rayner's voice cut through Lydia's thoughts, his face tight with uncertainty. I'm not sure, Lydia admitted, staring at the shifting patterns of the alien ships. They were no longer moving randomly, they had formed a loose circle above the Pacific Ocean, almost as though they were watching humanity's every move with bated breath. The broadcast had been going on for hours, and Lydia's team continued to monitor the alien responses. While their laughter had subsided somewhat, it was clear that the aliens were still processing whatever they had seen. Lydia knew that humor was a powerful tool, but the aliens were playing a different game, one that was as complex as it was unpredictable. In the moments of quiet between the bursts of laughter, Lydia had an eerie sense of dread. The aliens' initial response had been playful, almost like a challenge, but she couldn't shake the feeling that they were waiting for something. It wasn't enough to entertain them. Humanity had shown them its creativity, its ability to use humor, but what if that wasn't the answer? What if the aliens were only amused by the spectacle, waiting for humanity to make its next move, to show them whether they could be worthy of being taken seriously? We need to escalate, Lydia said suddenly, as if the words had been hanging in the air for hours, waiting to be spoken. The room fell silent. Everyone was watching her closely, waiting for her to explain. I don't think they're taking us seriously yet, she said, her voice steady, despite the rising anxiety in her chest. The laughter is fading, but it's not because they've stopped mocking us. They're waiting for something else. A sign that we understand what's happening. What are you suggesting? General Rayner asked, his expression grim. Lydia paused, considering her words carefully. We've been trying to respond with humor, to show them we're not just an easy target. But it's time we show them something else, something they didn't expect. We need to show them that we can think strategically, that we can use our creativity in ways that go beyond comedy. The room hummed with tension as the team processed her words. They all understood the stakes. The aliens had given them an opening, but it was clear now that the time for lightheartedness was over. The aliens had responded to the comedy, but they weren't yet convinced that humanity could hold its own in this strange, high-stakes game. We've got to show them we're resourceful, Lydia continued, her mind working overtime. We need to turn the tables on them. Take the mockery they've given us and use it as a way to outwit them. General Rayner, though hesitant at first, seemed to grasp the underlying urgency in Lydia's words. Are you suggesting a full-on confrontation? Lydia shook her head. Not exactly. What I'm saying is, we need to go beyond just humor. We need to play their game, but we need to play it on our terms. We show them that we can outsmart them, use creativity in ways that completely surprise them. A silence settled over the room, and the team began to deliberate. This was no longer just about responding to a joke, it was about survival. The aliens had set the tone, but humanity had to set the pace. Lydia's plan was risky, but it was the only option left. Meanwhile, in the control room, Jeremy tapped into the data feeds coming from Earth's military satellites. We have a problem, he said, his voice tinged with worry. I'm seeing strange energy readings coming from the alien ships. They've just changed their formation. Lydia's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean, changed? Look for yourself, Jeremy said, pointing at the holographic map. The once loosely formed circle had now coalesced into a dense, symmetrical grid. The alien ships hovered in perfect alignment, their positions immobile. A strange electromagnetic pulse rippled outward from the center of the formation, sending tremors through the atmosphere. The laughter, which had been erratic and disjointed, had suddenly stopped. In its place, an eerie silence filled the room. It was as if the aliens had paused, as though they were waiting for something. "What are they doing?" General Rayner asked, his voice taut with anxiety. Lydia didn't have an answer, at least, not yet. She stared at the holographic display, studying the alien ship's formation. The eerie silence hung in the air for a moment, but it felt like the calm before a storm. And then it happened. A pulse of intense light shot out from the center of the alien formation, spreading outward like a shockwave. The pulse didn't seem to be directed at Earth, rather, it seemed to be an attempt to communicate something. But what? Lydia's mind raced as she tried to make sense of the alien action. The pulse was so focused, so deliberate. This was no longer playful laughter, it was a warning. "We have to act now," Lydia said, her voice urgent. "This is the moment they've been waiting for. They want us to respond. But it has to be the right response." Jeremy's fingers flew over his console. "I'm trying to interpret the pulse," he said, sweat beading on his forehead. "It's almost like it's a signal." "A signal to do what?" Lydia asked. Before Jeremy could answer, the answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Zhang, who had been quietly analyzing the alien laughter recordings, spoke up. I think they're giving us a riddle." "A riddle?" Lydia repeated, incredulity in her voice. Dr. Zhang nodded. "Yes. It's the only explanation. The laughter wasn't just mockery, it was a game. The pulse, the formation, it's part of a puzzle. They're trying to challenge us." Lydia's eyes widened. The pieces were falling into place. The aliens weren't just mocking humanity, they were offering them a challenge. They wanted to see if humanity could rise to the occasion. They were testing humanity's intelligence, creativity, and problem-solving abilities. If they accepted this challenge, they could turn the tide in their favor. But if they failed, it would be the end. "We've been looking at this all wrong," Lydia said, a spark of determination in her eyes. The comedy was just the beginning. Now, we're playing their game. We solve the riddle, and we win. But the question remained, could humanity rise to the challenge in time? The fate of the Earth hung in the balance, and the clock was ticking. The tension in the command center was palpable as Lydia stood in front of the large holographic display, the alien ships suspended above Earth. The pulsing light from the alien formation still rippled across the atmosphere, sending tremors of unease through the room. The riddle, the game, whatever the aliens were playing, it had become clear that the outcome of this bizarre encounter depended on humanity's ability to solve it. The silence felt deafening, broken only by the rhythmic hum of the equipment and the occasional soft clicks of keypads from the analysts. Lydia could feel the weight of the moment pressing on her. One wrong move, and humanity might find itself extinguished by an alien force that could have wiped them out at any time. But now, with the puzzle before them, Lydia was more determined than ever. "They're waiting for us to solve it," Dr. Zhang said, her voice low but filled with realization. "The pulse, it's like a pattern. They're presenting us with a sequence, a challenge. It's not just about survival. It's about proving ourselves." Lydia nodded, feeling the truth of Dr. Zhang's words deep within her. This wasn't just a game of diplomacy. It was a test, one that could redefine humanity's place in the universe. The aliens, despite their mocking laughter, had offered humanity a chance. A chance to prove they were more than the objects of amusement they had been treated as. The question was, how would they play this game? How could they, in the face of overwhelming uncertainty, answer the challenge in a way that would make the aliens take them seriously? "What do we do next?" General Rayner's voice broke through Lydia's thoughts. His expression was steely, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of doubt. He had seen many crises in his career, but nothing like this. They were in uncharted territory. Lydia's mind raced, every possible outcome running through her head. They had tried humor, a response that seemed to have softened the alien approach but hadn't resolved the situation. Now, they needed to think like the aliens, unpredictably, creatively, and outside of the confines of conventional warfare or diplomacy. "We play the game," Lydia said with a steely calm that surprised even herself. "But we don't just solve the riddle. We add our own twist." The general raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "We'll give them an answer, yes," Lydia replied, her voice growing more confident. "But we're going to make it more than they expect. We'll turn their challenge into our own. A riddle for a riddle, our own brand of humor, but this time, it's one they can't ignore. It's not about solving the puzzle as they want us to. It's about doing it in a way that surprises them. Show them we can think beyond their patterns." There was a silence as her words sank in. The general exchanged a glance with Dr. Zhang, who nodded, understanding what Lydia meant. "We've been thinking too linearly," Lydia continued. "The aliens want to see if we can think creatively, and humor is part of that, but so is our adaptability. If we respond by following their pattern exactly, we're still playing their game on their terms. We need to flip the script." Lydia turned to the large display of the alien ships. The pulses of light still rippled outward, moving like waves in water. Each pulse was a sequence, a challenge laid out for humanity to interpret. "We'll give them a sequence of our own," she said, her voice full of purpose. "One that's completely unexpected. We'll combine everything we've learned about them, laughter, patterns, communication, and respond in a way that proves we're not just following orders. We're making our own rules." The team nodded, their faces hardening with the understanding of what needed to be done. They had a plan, and it was audacious, but it might be their only chance. The first phase of the plan began with the global broadcast. While the aliens had been playing their game with humanity's responses, it was now time for humanity to show them what it truly meant to be unpredictable. Lydia called upon the world's leading minds in the fields of art, music, science, and humor. They needed to craft a response, a collective answer that would surprise, delight, and perhaps even bewilder the aliens. Through a series of coordinated messages, every major city across Earth broadcast a sequence of creative expressions. In New York, an orchestra composed an unpredictable symphony based on the rhythm of the alien pulses. In Tokyo, a renowned animator created a surreal cartoon about humans learning to communicate with alien lifeforms through absurd humor. In Paris, a famous comedian staged an impromptu live performance, involving bizarre, off-the-wall improv inspired by the aliens' laughter. But it wasn't just the art that mattered. Each of these responses incorporated an element of surprise. Each city added a new twist, a creative interpretation of the aliens' patterns. The responses were not just human answers, they were human creations. They were spontaneous, wild, and unique. Each expression carried an underlying message: we can break the mold. We are unpredictable. We are human. As the broadcasts unfolded, the alien ships above Earth seemed to react. The formation began to shift again, their intricate, swirling dance mimicking the rhythm of the symphonies, the animation, the humor. The laughter returned, but now it was different. It was no longer a mocking cackle but a ripple of genuine amusement, a recognition of something unexpected, something they hadn't anticipated. But Lydia wasn't fooled by the change in tone. She knew the aliens had not yet been fully swayed. This was only part of their game, and the real test was yet to come. They had given the aliens their unexpected responses, but the next step was far more dangerous. The alien pulse intensified again, a powerful shockwave rippling outward, stronger than before. The ground beneath them vibrated, and the walls of the command center shook. "They're upping the stakes," General Rayner muttered, his voice filled with urgency. Lydia stood firm. "This is the final phase of the challenge. We need to show them that humanity isn't just creative, it's resilient. They want to see if we can withstand the pressure, if we can handle their game without breaking." As if on cue, a new signal came through from the alien ships. It wasn't laughter this time, nor was it a pulse. It was a final, complex code, a sequence of signals that were too sophisticated to be a simple pattern or puzzle. Lydia's heart raced as she realized what it was: a direct challenge. "They're calling us to their level," she said softly. "This is no longer a game. It's a test of our strength, our survival." She could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her, but it wasn't fear that surged within her. It was determination. The aliens had been testing them all along, seeing if humanity would cower in the face of adversity or if they would rise to the challenge. And now, in the face of their final test, Lydia had a choice: to back down or to answer the challenge with everything humanity had. Lydia turned to the team, her voice steady and full of resolve. "We rise. We show them that we can not only play their game, we can change the rules. We fight back with everything we have." With that, humanity's final response began. The collective creativity, resilience, and courage of the human race was poured into a single, unified act of defiance, a final answer that would prove whether humanity could truly face the stars, not as jesters, but as equals. The final broadcast was a masterpiece, a combination of art, humor, music, and human ingenuity that was nothing short of breathtaking. It was a message not just of resistance, but of hope. A message that proved humanity could face the unknown with courage, creativity, and resilience. And as the alien ships hovered above Earth, the laughter slowly faded, replaced by a silence that spoke volumes. In that moment, Lydia knew that humanity had won. Not through brute force, but through the strength of their spirit. And as the alien fleet slowly began to retreat into the stars, Lydia allowed herself a smile. They had taken the aliens' challenge and turned it into something no one could have predicted. And in doing so, humanity had shown the galaxy what it meant to be human. Thanks for watching. Don't forget subscribe my YouTube channel.